Okay, so here we are, and we're going to be going over some solving problems. We're going to be making tables and writing equations. And I really, really, really hope that with this kind of, extra, I'm going to go over it, that you really, really, really think that this is so incredibly easy to do. We have been doing this, but I know that some of you are still kind of a little afraid of it, think it's really, struggling with it. But you do have a test coming up. Please get this down in your notebooks. I've gone through the steps here. You're like, oh my gosh, Mr. Silva, that's so much to write down. Please just write it down. Please just write it down. Okay, because then you have it step by step. I'm sure, I hope, anyway, that you have some of these examples that we're going to go through. Well, not these specific examples, but examples in your notebooks anyway. But I've tried to really break this down and make it more specific for you, so that you have this in your notebook. Because remember, you don't have to memorize it because you keep referring to this, and eventually you will. You'll just know the steps. So let's go through this. First, the thing you have to do is decide which of the objects from the problem should be X and which one should be Y. Objects. I needed to come up with some type of word that would just describe anything. So they're all different things. It could be, money, weight, height, distance, all sorts of things, okay? I know one of the examples we used a lot in class was miles per hour. So let's talk about that. So we want to I'm going to write down miles per hour. And I know that I talked about in class, a lot of us even, when some of you got confused about this, when you were writing it down, I reversed it for you. And I said, is it miles per hour or hours per mile? And then you were like, wait, I know the answer. Because when you put it like this, you kind of automatically know, because it really only makes sense one way. Because you think, driving down the road, what do you see? The sign says miles per hour, okay? So you really want to think about them both ways. I mean, there would be a place where you might need to know hours per mile, but for the most part, when we reference, driving, it's always miles per hour. So the logical one here would always be pick miles per hour, okay? So there might always be a place or a time where we need the other one, but you should know which one the logical one is, okay? Which phrase makes more sense, miles per hour, okay? So then we come down here and we get to, once we've chosen the logical phrase, it's the second object in the phrase or the one after the word per, that is my X. Okay, X miles per hour. So when I look at the phrase miles per hour, well, the second object or the thing that comes after the word per is hour. Okay, so it means hour is represented by the variable X, or sometimes I'm given a different variable. But it certainly is helpful when I make my table. I know I didn't put in the steps here to make the table, but you need to make the table. Okay, so here I'm going to make the table, and my table is always in alphabetical order. And what do we mean by that? We mean our X and Y. It's always X first because X, Y, that's how it is in alpha order. So my X is here and my Y is here, okay? But most often, especially now that when we really get into it, there's another variable there. So miles per hour, well, you know what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at miles. I'm going to put MI for miles over here, and hours would be HR. But for simplicity's sake, above my X, I'm going to put miles, and above my Y, I'm going to put H, okay? So that would be like my alternate variable, if you will. but X, Y. Oh my gosh, I reversed them. Mrs. De Silva's crazy. Huh? I hope you were at home going, Mr. Silva, what are you doing? And I'm just being silly, okay? Because it says right here, right there in front of us, right there in front of us, right here. Ours is X. So what am I doing? Craziness. This is, of course, hours. And this is, of course, miles. Good thing we didn't get too far with that. Good thing I heard you at home hollering at me to stop doing that silliness. This, of course, is H, and this, of course, is M. Don't let me do that again, okay? Because I'm going to switch the page. I have to rewrite the table, okay? So, make sense? Also, the reason you always go back and double check your work. So I did that on purpose. Okay, miles per hour. Hour is second, so that is my X, and X goes alpha order in my table, therefore comes first. So, what's my next step? Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is remake that table so I don't forget anything. X, Y. And then what is X? Do we remember? Come on, holler so I can hear you. Yes. On the left, my X is hours, so that, of course, we decided is H. And my Y is miles, so that's M. Okay, oh, I kind of crossed out part of the Y there. Let me fix that so it doesn't look so weird. Okay, usually you have more room, obviously, on your paper. I'm just doing this as a quick example anyway. We're going to do real examples in a minute. So now I probably have some numbers, which I'm literally going to make up so that, and I'm going to make up some very, very easy numbers so that we can just kind of make our way through this. So I drove to New York. I know that I drove 180 miles in 3 hours. Okay, and up here it says, right here in my direction, it says divide to find the amount of Y per 1X. So that means I would take this right here, right, and I would divide 180, divide by 3. Hopefully you all realize that that is 60 per 1. So 60 miles per 1 hour. So that means my average speed was 60 miles per 1 hour. And that makes sense, right? Okay. Then what does it say? Put it in the table. I did that. That's also the constant of proportionality, or K. Write it at the top of the table. Right here, right in the middle, K equals 60. Remember doing that? Because that way I won't forget. Because when I go in this direction across the top, I multiply. And in the opposite direction, I divide. Hopefully you remember that, right? Okay. Then it says that I should drop my X or drop my X for the replacement variable. I see. Okay. Whoops. Drop the X or the replacement variable. So I'm going to drop the H. Actually, I'm going to drop both. I'll drop the X first. Okay. Down to the bottom of the X column. Multiply X by K. Well, K is 60, right? And I know I'm going in this direction, so I'm supposed to multiply, so that makes sense. Okay. And fill it in for the Y column. That makes sense. So X times 60 is 60X. Circle that answer and Y. That way I don't lose track of anything, right? I'm circling both. The two circled expressions written as equivalent is the equation. So that means I would have Y equals 60X as my equation. That makes sense, right? Let's do the same thing again, but this time I want to use the alternate variable. Let me extend my table a little bit. So I'm going to drop down the H this time instead. Multiply H times my constant of proportionality, which is 60, so I get 60H. Okay, I'm still going to circle both. Circle and circle. So this time my equation is m equals 60h. The table and the equation can both be used to answer all questions about the given situation or problem. Okay, we're not going to worry about that. You just write that down. We're going to have an example of that as we get into this. Okay? So hopefully that helps clear up some things already. We're going to do a couple of examples, and then we're going to move on. Well, not in this video. Okay, here we are. A 3-pound package of ground beef sells for $12. Let B equal the cost of the ground beef in dollars and the weight of the ground beef in pounds. Okay. 3-pound package of ground beef sells for $12. B is the ground beef and okay. Then it says write an equation of the cost of the ground beef in dollars B given the weight W in pounds of the ground beef. Okay. So remember my directions said to think about this. So I've got the cost and the weight. So the cost would be dollars per pound, which makes sense. Dollars per pound or pounds per dollar. So if you went to the store and you were going to buy this ground beef, would you be purchasing it dollars per pound or pounds per dollar? What is it? Okay, if you don't go shopping, you might want to ask somebody or, take a walk into a store, because I can tell you that the way that you purchase things is dollars per pound. Okay? I mean, you might on occasion pounds per dollar, like if you walked into a store and said, I want to purchase some beef, I only have $5 to spend, that might be a different story. But typically it's dollars per pound. So that means my second word here is pounds, right? My second word is pounds. And my second word being pounds, that means that's going to go first. Now, that's W, right? So W is going to go in my table in the beginning, because that would be where W goes, right? Or where X goes, right? Because it's always XY. I'll put the X and the Y here for us. Actually, let me move that down. I'll move this down so I have more room. Make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. So this is X and Y. Then I'm going to actually use another color. So put in W, because I want the W to be my X, right? I'm going to put W over here. And that means the other variable is B. The cost is going to be over here, right? Now, what information do they give us? Well, the information is right here. 3 pounds. Pounds is W, right? So that would have to go here. Remember, the next thing is to fill in the numbers they gave me. And that sells for $12. That's going to go here. My next set of directions says to divide, right? And I know which direction do I divide in? Well, if you forgot, put it up top and down the bottom. Left to right is multiply. Down the bottom, right to left is divide. Okay, so that means I'm going to be dividing left to right. So I'm going to go off to the side and do this. 12 divided by 3. Hopefully you know it was 4. If you're unsure, use a calculator. So that is per 1. So I'm going to put 4 under here. So that's $4 per 1 pound. Remember, that's also my constant of proportionality, which is K. I'm going to write that in the middle so that I don't forget. Now I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to drop that down. I'm going to drop W down so I can write my equation, right? I'm actually going to use a different color here so that make it stand out for you. And drop down the W. W gets multiplied by the constant of proportionality, which is 4, so 4 times W, right? I'm doing 4 times W, and that's going to equal, remember, numbers always first, 4W. I'm going to circle that. I'm going to circle B, so that means my equation is B equals 4W. Write an equation, it's right here. And dollars B, given the weight in pounds. So does that make sense? If I'm given the weight, I need to find the cost. So here, I'd have to be given the weight, right? Multiply it by something to find the cost. That's what they asked me to do. That's what I did. So here's my answer for this first one, B equals 4W. Okay, and they asked me another question. Use my equation to find the cost. Very specifically tells me to use that equation. Okay, well, I'm going to come over to here where I have some room. I'm going to rewrite my equation, B equals 4W, to find the cost of 9.5 pounds. Okay, so pounds is the W, that's the weight. So I'm going to put a semicolon, that's a dot with a comma. And I'm going to say W is equal to 9.5 or 9.5, right? So B equals, I don't do things in my head, I write this as 4 times 9.5. I write down everything so that you can see all my work, right? Now I can use a calculator, or let's just think about this for a moment. What is 9.5 times 4? Well, what's 9 times 4? Just kind of, this is what I'm thinking in my head. 9 times 4 is 36, right? And then 0.5, or 1/2, times 4. Remember, any number times 1/2 means I'm taking half of that number. So what's half of 4? That's, of course, 2. Then I add those together. 36 plus 2 is 38. So B is 38. If you did that on a calculator, I'm hoping you got 38, because that is, in fact, the answer. So I'm finding the cost. That means my answer is $38. I'm going to put that up here because that is the answer, $38. Okay? Do not try to do anything other than make this table. You see how easy that was? There was no doubt that I'm right here. Don't try to think things out in your head. Don't try to make this harder than it is. The next one. An artist buys canvas in rolls. Canvas is the stuff that artists paint on. Each roll has 90 square feet of canvas and costs $54. Let C equal the cost of the canvas in dollars and A equal the area of the canvas in square feet. Write an equation to represent the cost of the canvas in dollars, C, given the number of square feet of canvas, A. Okay, well, I know my first step. I know I've got the cost in dollars and the area in square feet. Okay, so that would be, it's either dollars per square feet or square feet per dollar. So, what do we think it is here? What do we think it is? Which one makes more sense? Dollars per square feet or square feet per dollar? Well, think back to the last one. That may help you. Do I hear you? Do I hear you? Yep, it sounds like I hear you. The one that makes sense is dollars per square feet. Good job. You guys are good at this. Dollars per square feet. Okay, so what's my second object? It's per square feet. So what's the variable? That's the area. So the variable is A. So I'm going to set up my table. Nice and big here. Just to remind myself, I'm going to make this X and Y. You don't have to do that, but for now I suggest you do. I put them on the inside so that they don't really interfere. Okay, I am going to, well, let me just kind of put some things here on the table, kind of help us along. My left side, whoops, X is replaced by what? Square feet, which is area, that's A. And Y is replaced with C, the cost of the canvas. Okay. So, what numbers did they give us? Each roll has 90 square feet. So the square feet, that's the area. So that's going to go here on this side, right? And C is the cost, which is $54. Okay, so next step is to divide. Again, we divide in this direction, right? So we're going to go off to the side. 54 divided by 90. Mrs. De Silva, I don't know how to do that. Well, get yourself a calculator. And what do you get? Hopefully, you get 0.6. Remember, you're dealing with money. So you want to put a 0 at the end there because that's 60 cents. But of course, it's in its dollar form. So you want to have that 0 at the end. So that would go here, right? Because that's where my cost is. And that's per 1 square foot. What's the other name for that? That's right. It's the constant of proportionality. So I'm going to write that up top. K equals 0.60, 60 cents. And then what's next? You got it. We're going to drop down that A. Here it is. We're going to send it across. That means we're multiplying it times 0. That's going to be kind of confusing, but times 0.60. No, it's not. So that means I end up with 0.60A. Always the number first. I'm going to come back and I'm going to circle that answer and the variable at the top because they are, of course, are equal to each other. And those two expressions are going to give me my equation of C equals 0.60A as my equation. Now, just so you know, if you write 0 equals 0.6A, that is correct, okay? But I just wanted you to understand that we are dealing with money, so that's typically how we would write money. But if you write it like this, the bottom one, it is correct. Okay? There you go. Nice little review for you. I do hope you put these notes into your notebook, and please ask questions if you have them.